Hi everybody. I've decided to start a YouTube channel. Hooray! And what better way to kick things off on a new YouTube channel than sort of Tier Slop. Tier Slop, baby. Yeah, that's what we love. That's the kind of content people eat up. I eat it up. So, I don't know, I just wanted to kind of talk about my opinion of some of these decks in Master Duel right now. A little bit of a disclaimer up front. If your favorite deck or your preferred deck isn't on this list and I don't rank it, that doesn't mean I don't think it's viable at all. I've chosen the most popular and powerful decks, the decks that are actually performing best according to the limited data I have access to and my own personal experience. And these are decks that you're going to run into and play on the ladder, and you're going to have to know how to beat them if you're going to play the game. All of them. So even if something ends up in deer, let's just say in theory I said, or in D, I mean not deer, in D, let's just say I said Snake Eye after the hits is in D. That wouldn't mean Snake Eye isn't viable. Snake Eye is still one of the most viable decks in the format, right? Let's just say I said that. And we're going to start off with the heavy hitters, Malice and Ryziel. So I don't think we're in a tier 0 format. I don't think Ryziel is that much better than Malice, or Malice is that much better than Ryziel. In fact, which deck wins basically depends on which deck goes first in the matchup, because Malice is pretty weak to removal, making it pretty weak to detonator, but Ryziel is just not going to compete with a Malice end board by, sending a fucking thing off X Ryziel. It's just, Malice is kind of a cheeky best of one deck, and you can win going second playing Malice. It's not like you can't win going second. It's not as bad as, say, Yubel felt going second, for example. But you really want to be going first, and you want to be playing through negations, not removal type effects. So negates that destroy in particular are very damaging to you, or summoning negates. Everything is a little bit weak to summoning negates except basically stun, and even then if you go first and set a solemn, that does take care of the normal summon. Fiendsmith Ryziel is B. Fiendsmith Ryziel is the weaker variant of Ryziel. I have both variants, and I do play both variants, and I've also played a fair bit with the Malice deck. And as much as I love the Fiendsmith Ryziel stuff, it raises the ceiling on the Ryziel portion of the deck and raises the ceiling on the Fiendsmith portion of the deck, and they flow into each other really nice and easily. And there are a lot of good things about the deck. Putting up a Spell and Trap negate out of the Desiree gives Ryziel the advantage of doing something it has trouble doing normally, which is the Spell and Trap negate. But pure Ryziel, just seeing your X Ryziel and your Ice Ryziel more often by searching them with 7 Tachyon and whatever, tends to perform better. And there also is space in the pure Ryziel deck for more of the situational Ryziel cards, the bricks so-called, although all of them do something in your hand if you get even and detonator on the field. So, at worst, most of the time, they're not entirely dead draws, but you do tend to want to be searching them out. But Plasma Hole and Plug-In are really powerful cards, and there's not room for them in Fiendsmith Ryziel. And putting a Caesar up is great, but if everybody's on X Ryziel and Talents and Ultimate Slayer, the regular Ryziel board survives that stuff much better than the Fiendsmith Ryziel board does, in my experience. So it's tricky. In either case, evenly matched is pretty good against you, but evenly matched is good against everyone. So we have untapped.gg data here, and I'm only allowed to see the ranks all the way from Bronze to Master, but it does give us a little bit of information, and Malice seems to have the biggest win rate of any of these archetypes. And then they're ordered in terms of popularity. So basically, the most popular deck is Blue Eyes, and its win rate is above 50%. Its win rate is better than Fiendsmith Ryziel. But as you get up to higher tiers, you see less and less Blue Eyes, and it does worse and worse because Ryziel and Malice are so good. But still, I think Blue Eyes is solidly an A tier deck. I really do believe in the Blue Eyes. You do see your bricks a lot. It does have some inherent weaknesses. And I think running over 40 cards is actually optimal to see your bricks less often, and also just to have the right ratio of non-engine, because it's a very engine-heavy deck. My Blue Eyes list in Master Duel is 50 cards, and I still don't feel like I have enough hand traps, But it's a really strong deck, and it's the only real deck that seems to be competing with Ryziel and Malice on an even level. And it's the deck that's so popular that you have to be prepared to face it on the ladder. You have to know how to play against Blue Eyes decks, and or else you're gonna have trouble. Branded is just eternally an A deck. There's not much to say here. A good brandy can figure out how to turn one branded fusion into like a 10-minute end phase. Like, for fuck's sake, it's crazy. It's crazy the stuff these branded players are doing. And it's different every time, so it's really hard to know where the right choke points are against them. Even if you play branded yourself, you can get tricked, right? Like, it has so much follow-up, and it does have the capability of putting up boards. One thing that's nice is that most people are actually using what's it called? The Light Dragon that revives something from one graveyard to both sides of the field or whatever. It's not actually being used to put up floodgates for the most part. It's actually being used to make Mirror Jade on the opponent's turn through Maxi. So it's even the unfair stuff that makes Branded feel not so fun to play against. It's kind of not popular at the moment. But you don't need that unfair stuff either, because the deck it has super long end phases because of the amount of effects they get to activate during their end phase. They send a card to the graveyard. Because they send it to the graveyard, they get to add it to their hand. Then because they add it to their hand, they get to send another card to the graveyard. And then because of that, it gets to, holy crap. Yeah, Branded is a really strong deck in the hands of a good pilot. Having played the deck itself, it's really hard to pilot. Like, I don't have a Branded deck anymore. And I honestly just, I'd have to devote most of my time to playing Branded every format to play Branded every format. But it is a good deck, and it's one of the best board breaker decks in the format. Like, I think it plays board breakers the best, especially because it can actually abuse Super Poly and feel good about what it's making with Super Poly. Like, you don't have to run anything but Garura, which you would run anyways to send from the extra deck. And honestly, you get all these Super Poly targets, and which ones you pick will depend on the format and depend on which ones are good when you make them outside of Super Poly. But it does good stuff with Super Poly. It does good stuff with Thrust, Triple Tactics Thrust. It's really strong. Memento is solidly a B tier deck, but it's the top of B. Memento is, according to I seem to have... Oh, no, I didn't. Memento, according to the trending decks with powers 1 to 3, it's actually tier 3, not trending, right? According to Master Duel Meta's tier list, they're calling the power of it 3.5, and they're calling Branded 4.0, right? They're calling Tenpai 5.0, but we'll get to that in a bit. And they're calling Malice 33.5, so obviously they think that it's the most powerful deck by a large margin. I personally think Ryziel is actually a little bit better, but Malice has the advantage of being a really nasty best of one deck, because the cards that hate it are cards you don't really want to run in your main deck. You still run into the occasional Lancia and it's frustrating, but for the most part, in best of one, most players are not going to be able to afford running that kind of stuff. But anyways, back to Memento. Memento is just a really scary combo deck. It's kind of like Branded in that it accrues a lot of advantage over the course of a couple of turns. So it does a whole bunch of stuff on your turn and a whole bunch of stuff on the opponent's turn, and all of that stuff adds cards to the hand, fills the graveyard, uses up the resources in the graveyard to get more things, and then shuffles them back into the deck to do it all over again, right? It's a really powerful deck. It's got a lot of room for creative expression in both play and deck building. If you're good with Memento easily competes up here in the A tier. The difference between them is minimal in the hands of a good pilot. In the hands of a good pilot who knows Memento is a very strong deck. I think in the hands of a good pilot who knows Malice is a stronger deck, or Ryziel, for example. And we could debate that Fiendsmith Ryziel, just by virtue of having X Ryziel and Ice Ryziel and Sword Ryziel in the deck, is better than Memento, but I think Memento is a little bit stronger. Water, I think it's either the bottom of B or the top of C. So the Water deck is really good at going first and comboing off. It can play Impulse, or it can play Sekka's Light. If they want to play Sekka's Light, a lot of them are doing that, and that's really good. So it's a very strong deck, but my problem with it is a lot of its power is concentrated in Normal Summon Neptibus. And yes, you can do a couple of other things that will get you to Neptibist, but for the most part, if you don't see Neptibist in your opening hand, the deck gets a lot weaker. And yeah, there are a bunch of other lines and combo lines that get you to Neptibist nice and early. Like if you don't get interrupted at all, you're very hard to stop, and if you get to normal summon Neptibist and they don't have like exactly Droll, you're probably going to do a lot of stuff. But it does catch some strays from that Droll weakness, right? Like when you're weak to Droll in a format where everyone's running Droll to make Ryzeal end on Detonator Pass, then you're just going to get Drolled a lot. One deck I'm noticing I didn't include in here, but I am going to talk about it, is Crystron. Sorry about that. I will figure that out later. Next time I do a tier list, Crystron will be on it. I think Crystron is also in C, right with Mermail. These were incredibly strong decks just a little while ago, but in the current meta, they catch too many strays. Fiendsmith, I'm going to call that a D tier deck, like pure Fiendsmith. Like you could play the Primite cards, or I had a lot of fun playing the Millennium cards. I've had fun playing the Kashtira cards. Like there's a lot of good stuff you can do with Fiendsmith. So I had fun playing Muskets in Fiendsmith. Like it's not a bad deck, but it's just with unchecked Malice at the top of the format and unchecked Ryzeal at the top of the format, or barely checked. I mean, one hit to X does not, and a couple of Bonfire missing is not really that much of a hit to Ryzeal. Not with 7 Tachyon and 7th Ascension and Small World all still at 3. Like it's still just as consistent. It might not be just as consistent into the hand traps your opponent's running. That's a different story, but it's just as consistent as it was when it came out in the TCG. And like the other thing about playing Fiendsmith is that you should probably be playing Fiendsmith Ryzeal if you like the Fiendsmith cards, because if you play Fiendsmith Ryzeal, you'll still be stuck playing Fiendsmith Control some portion of the time, but you'll be able to make these crazy Fiendsmith Ryzeal end boards on occasion, and you'll see your Ryzeal cards and be playing a totally fair Ryzeal game a lot of the time too. So like a couple minor weaknesses, but like yeah, you should just, maybe D is a little bit unfair, but again, I'm considering this a top deck still, just by being on the list. I'm going to put Azamino White Forest just below Fiendsmith Ryzeal for now. That may move as we add other things to the list, but Azamino White Forest is an incredibly strong deck when it goes first, just like Malice, maybe even stronger than Malice. The end board is really insane, and it's actually pretty hard to stop. Like, maybe that's my experience being a little bit skewed, but like it's kind of Droll or bust. Like, whereas like in this format everyone's running Droll, so that caused it to lose a lot of points. But like there was a time when I thought this deck needed a hit, and while I'm ultimately retroactively glad they didn't hit it, it's still a really strong contender. It's like a top deck for sure. Snake Eye, I want to put it in D, but maybe I put it in A, because it's still Snake Eye. If you see your Snake Eye Ash or your Bonfire, then, or your one Diabell Star, or whatever, or is it Diabell Star maybe is still at 3. I don't know, I crafted down my Snake Eye cards a while ago because I got so bored of Snake Eye. Long before the Oak ban, and the Oak ban was just like, why would I play this deck? Which is why I was saying, like, it could be in D or it could be in A. I don't face a lot of it anymore. It's very inconsistent now, but it's still very powerful if it does its thing. Like, it's incredibly powerful. So we're going to split the difference and say top of C, bottom of B, like right in the middle of the pack, right? Like, losing Golem and losing Oak and losing all of these other cards they've hit as they've slowly whittled Snake Eye's power down has really made it so that I don't want to play Snake Eye, even though like it's doing well in the format. There's 2 variants of Snake Eye that are doing well in the format enough to get mentioned on Master Duel meta. They're trending. They have power levels between 1 and 3, but they're actually decks that are worth talking about still. And some of these, Voiceless Voice, B or C, I'm not sure which. I'm just going to err on the side of being favorable and say B. Voiceless Voice doesn't do a lot, but what it does is really strong. Like it's not a hard deck to play, and that makes it a lot stronger too. Like it's very beginner friendly, but you'll also still have to learn how these interactions work, and like you'll still have to be good at the game to win with Voiceless Voice. Don't get me wrong. It's not like in fact, I think you probably have to be better at the game to win with Voiceless Voice than you do to win with like Malice. But compare it to like Branded or even to like Blue Eyes. Like I'm still learning things about Blue Eyes, and I've been playing it for months. And I still forget things in the Blue Eyes matchup because they don't come up for so long that they're irrelevant to me. And if you pay attention to those things will win you games. Like for example, True Light's protection effect on my Blue Eyes came up today, and I was not sure why that had happened, and that's why that had happened, because True Light was protecting my Blue Eyes, and it won me that game. Voiceless Voice, a very strong deck in the hands of a good pilot. It's basically a very simple mid-range deck, but it's got a better end board if it doesn't get stopped than something like Fiendsmith Control. And it's actually pretty hard to interrupt with board breakers or hand traps. And if it establishes even if it just establishes low and Skull Guardian, that's already pretty good, especially with the barrier. Like all it needs is low Skull Guardian and barrier, and it's playing its game, and it has a real shot of winning a lot of those games. Labyrinth, it depends on the variant. Like I think Hand Trap Labyrinth is like a D right now. Like I see no reason to be playing Hand Trap Labyrinth. But I think regular Trap Labyrinth, like Back Row Labyrinth, or the Labyrinth lists that are running Solemns, the Labyrinth lists that are running the Big Rock, that protects your spells and traps and lets you set a trap, the Labyrinth lists that are running like they're all going to be on Impulse and Imperm, so I'm not saying no hand traps, but I'm just saying like your Labyrinth lists that are running Equation Cannon, for example, those are actually really strong, especially if they have Solemns to push through your negates. They can let you go first and still establish a crazy presence on turn 2, because setting 5 back row is that powerful in a lot of situations. Like people underestimate how strong Labyrinth can be, Trap Lab can be going second, and if you play the grind game correctly, it's incredibly powerful. Hand Trap Labyrinth, I think, is a lot weaker right now, just because there are better decks that you can be running to have 20 hand traps. But it is an impulse deck, so it's not like it's a bad deck. Again, even if it was worse than that, it would still make it onto this list. But I'm going to say top of C for Labyrinth, mostly talking about Equation Cannon and other more back row focused Labyrinth. Tenpai Dragon, I'm going to put right in the middle of B. And here's why. It's not very consistent, but man, can they just sack you every time. If they have a good hand, you're not winning that game. You won the coin toss, and it actually worked against you because you didn't guess they were Tenpai, and they're going to kill you. Like a good Tenpai pilot can kill in almost any situation. The problem is they to do that, they have to see a starter, and there's so few starters, and they have to run so few starters. But like Board Breaker Tenpai is great right now. Hand Trap Tenpai, also good right now. You can run Impulse in the deck. You can run Droplet in the deck and really abuse Droplet at a time when Droplet is really good. Like, yeah, it's a strong deck. It's really hard to stop an OTK from happening, and especially if they have the right extra deck. And sometimes that depends on what utility options they're running, but even just running some of the baseline ones, they can kill through almost anything. Like, they used to kill through Pot of Prosperity, right? Like Labyrinth is not Labyrinth, Tenpai is a really, really powerful deck. I just think I would still rather be playing Fiendsmith Ryzeal than Tenpai, because Fiendsmith Ryzeal has a lot of starters and does have the potential to beat Tenpai's hands, especially if they brick. But I will say, from personal experience, the matchup of Ryzeal versus Tenpai is not actually that great. Like, if they see a starter, you are very well going to lose the game a lot of the time, whether they're Hand Trap or Board Breaker. At least with the Fiendsmith Ryzeal version. I've only been playing pure Ryzeal for a little while because I was hoping Fiendsmith would be better, so I'd have an excuse to still play Fiendsmith cards. Kashtira as an engine is probably top of B. Like just running Kashtira Unicorn and Kashtira Fenrir and Kashtira Birth and one planet is really strong. But the Kashtira deck itself is not in a great position right now. I think if you wanted to play Stun, you might as well play Kashtira, and then you can run your D-Prisons and your Macrocosmoses and all your floodgates, all your favorite floodgates in the format, whatever you think is good. Is it D-Prison? No, it's not D-Prison. I can't remember. Whatever. But give me a second. Dimensional Prison. No, that's the old one. I'm thinking about Dimensional Barrier, which is just so cracked against Ryziel. You know, they're a pure Xyz deck for the most part. D-Barrier, yeah. But anyway, I do think Kashtira is just basically a stun deck that loses to board breakers. And board breakers are actually pretty good against Ryziel, and they're not the worst against Malice, although I think the scariest thing about Malice is the white binder giving you so much follow-up. Like, after you've already drawn 3 cards, then white binder gives you follow-up, so like you do kind of have to stop Malice from playing rather than board break them. But you can remove most of the elements of their end board very quickly and easily with just a couple board breakers, right? Like, it can be done. And then lastly, we're going to talk about tier elements, and I get sacked by tier elements a lot, so I'm tempted to put it up in B with Tenpai. Because again, if their mills are good, like if their mills are even half decent, they're probably going to win the game. And they get so many mills if they combo off at all, that they're probably going to just accrue too much advantage for you to beat them. But you are relying on RNG. So like if you have a lot of average games with this deck, it's good, but I would never want to play it because with my luck, I would never make Kit Kalos. Like I'd never be able to make Kit Kalos with the so few starters. Like, and I get that you can mill 5 by making Fiendsmith and whatever, but that's if your Fiendsmith line doesn't get interrupted and you mill the right cards, right? Like I don't want to count on that. I don't personally want to count on that, but if you're lucky and you can win coin flips and you can mill good mills, then like, you know, play the most skillful deck ever, right? That's what it is, right? The slot machine is the most skillful deck ever. Are we still sticking to that idea, guys? Is that still the community's thoughts? I know, I'm sure it was actually a skillful mirror. It did look like it. A lot of things to keep in mind. But anyway, yeah, so that's how the list ends up looking. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, especially you werewolves. Alright, bye everyone.